esteemed invitees, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the first session of the Executive Enhancement and Enrichment Program 2021 to 2023. Today's session, titled as Strategic Thinking, Setting New Targets and Goals, will be facilitated by corporate trainer, co-founder of Total Fitness Group and Minefields Inc. consulting agency, Mr. Mohammed Mr. As I mentioned before, this session is the first session of the Executive Enhancement and Enrichment Program, a collaborative venture of the President's Office and Civil Service Training Institute. This program is designed for political appointees and high-ranking government officials to enrich and develop their job competencies. Through this program, training will be provided for a diverse set of skills ranging from management skills, strategic thinking, leadership skills, and achieving a positive mindset. This program is set to be conducted for a period of 2 years, and in this time frame, interactive lectures, information sessions, and various other developmental initiatives will be facilitated by local and international experts. It is our anticipation that this program helps to create a robust dialogue among political appointees and high-ranking government officials, which will aid them in carrying through the developmental targets and priorities of the government. Today's session will focus on strategic thinking, and a relevant session on strategic planning has been scheduled to be conducted next month. Both these sessions in combination will provide key insights to strategic thinking from individual and organizational perspectives. Before we move on with the session, I would like to highlight some administrative guidelines. All attendees are required to complete their registration for the session. If you had any problems or any issues and were unable to complete the registration, you may scan the QR code placed inside the hall on my right, and you may fill up the Google form. As mentioned before, today's session will be facilitated by Mohammed Misto. Misto is a business consultant, corporate trainer, and a passionate marathoner. His expertise lies in the field of marketing and branding, and is a firm believer in the power of marketing and the ultimate benefits of effective branding. With a Master of Business Administration from the University of Western Australia, he is also the co-founder of Total Fitness Group, TFG, and Minefields Inc. consulting agency. Mr. continues to believe in the power of growing and developing oneself, the other person, teams, organizations, and the like. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our facilitator for the session, Mr. Mohammed Mr.
Assalamu alaikum. Well, I'm going to be conducting this session in English. Strategic thinking is a topic that I'm very familiar with, mainly because this is what I do for a living. Through this consulting firm, corporate training is one of our core businesses. I have met countless private sector individuals. We have tried helping countless private sector individuals in order to lift them up with upskilling. Well, I hope today you are going to learn something within the next 1 hour, 15 or 20 minutes time. So let's get on with it, shall we? Obsessions is a part of me. For all the good habits that I have, I firmly believe that the reason why I adopted those habits is simply because of obsession. But if you Google this term, you're not going to meet up with nice words about obsession, because it's got a very, very negative connotation about it. But if you really think about it, if you are strategic about something, you can turn it around to your advantage, no matter what it is. I'm obsessed about running. Crazy obsession, really. Because would you believe last Saturday, I woke up 2 in the morning. 2 in the morning, and I had my breakfast 2:30 a.m. Breakfast 2:30 a.m. And then around 4 o'clock, I was out running on the streets of Male. I did 6 laps around Male, a bit more really, because I needed to get 32 kilometers of running that day. And I did. This crazy obsession makes me really talk about running all the time. Even if you say running, it's like you calling my name, Mister, and I might look at you. It's that sort of a crazy obsession. But because of this obsession, I have learned to be very disciplined. With that discipline, I sleep 8 p.m. most of the nights, 8 p.m. With that discipline, I really care about what I eat. If tomorrow I have a long running schedule, I would pay a lot of attention to the food that I eat today. I drink a lot too, not the other drink, but water. You're supposed to laugh. Well, with these disciplines, I would always credit obsession. Because unless you are obsessed about something, you're not going to master it. That's what I believe in. You have to be obsessed about it until the obsession becomes you. And when it becomes you, the good news is you don't have to think about it anymore because it's automatic. You will wake up at 4 in the morning. You will go out running every day. And if you don't run, it's like you haven't had breakfast or lunch or dinner, or you're not wearing clothes. I'm not here to talk about this running obsession, leave that aside. But I'm here to talk about something else, another obsession of mine, which is reading. I read a lot. And again, a crazy level of reading. Because on average, every single day at 4 in the morning, I'm lying on my sofa with a coffee in my hand and reading my favorite books. 4 in the morning. And I make sure I do it most of the days for 1 hour. I read even in my toilet. I read in waiting lounges as well. Reading is such a big part of me because being a consultant, being a corporate trainer demands that you are up to date with the knowledge. And since I'm aging, things doesn't remain in my memory for too long unless I put in the effort to read the things that I want to really know. Like for instance, last few days, I've been reading a lot about brains. Well, I've got some of my favorite books that I've read a long time ago. So I had to revisit those chapters that interested me most regarding brains. Because when it comes to strategic thinking, I believe that the power of your brain can be harnessed to your advantage. But you can only do that if you know the tricks. Talking about brains, I have to introduce you to one of the greats in this field, Amy Cuddy. Before I tell you what she has done, let's do a little warming up, shall we? Okay, warming up it is. What you're going to do now for me is you're going to stand up when I ask you to stand. And when I ask you to do something, I hope that all of you would pretty much follow me. Would you do that? Would you do that? That's good. Okay. Bionic woman pose. Do you know what that is? Bionic woman pose. Bionic woman pose is this. This is the bionic woman pose. Chest wide open, hands here on your hips, and you feel like you are the most powerful person in the world. That's the bionic woman pose. Can we do that? Yes? So everyone get up, please. Thank you very much. And when I give you 1, 2, and 3, all of you, please do the bionic woman pose for me. 1, 2, and 3. This. Stay there, stay there, stay there. Okay, thank you very much. You can sit down. What Amy Cuddy has done is she had discovered something known as power poses. Bionic woman pose is one of those power poses. There are many power poses. When your chest is wide open, there are certain hormone changes that is happening in your body. Only when your chest is wide open. She did some research on blind people, naturally blind people who went into sports. And she discovered when they score a goal or when they achieve a target, what do they do to celebrate? What do they do? The hands go wide, the chest goes wide open, and this is again that power pose. No matter where you look at, when you reach a target, you have this tendency to go on a power pose. Your chest will go wide open. This is no different to animals as well. Gorillas, when they get aggressive, what do? Oh! That is another power pose for them. I've had one experience where while I was living in Australia, I had some friends who came to visit me. And in this visit, we went to a wildlife park. Wildlife park basically means there is animals out there, not in cages, and you may be able to interact with them. That is the whole idea of a wildlife park. While I was watching all the animals, I saw my friend getting on his knees with his big SLR camera, and he was at that very moment taking a picture of 3 ducks and a mother duck. So these 3 ducks and the mother duck, they were crossing a pathway. So this, my friend, goes on his knees and tries to take a picture. He did. The flash also went off. At this very moment, I saw my friend running. In an instant, I saw him running. And then when I looked back, the mother duck was actually chasing him. And when it was chasing, guess what? The feathers wide open, more like the chest is wide open in anger. That's what it was doing. So animals, humans, we all possess this power posing ability. What Amy Cuddy discovered in her research was we can actually fake our mind into believing that we are in a power pose. The results was so significant. I'm talking about 20% increase in testosterone in your body if you could only do a power pose for 2 minutes looking at a mirror and making your brain believe that it is seeing a power pose. 2 minutes a day. Testosterone goes up 20%. And there's another significant hormonal change. Cortisol goes down. What is cortisol? The stress hormone. So the cortisol goes down by 25%, testosterone goes up by 20%. Now that is significant, isn't it? So she is one scientific brain researcher who believes that we can do certain things by faking our brain into believing that we are achieving things in our life. So this is one such thing. Fake it till you become it. So when you go to your biggest presentation or when you go to your biggest client, maybe a power pose might do the trick for you. Because if you have got that testosterone going in your body and the stress hormone going down in your body, that is a very, very, very good sign. Today, I'm actually going to be talking about 5 things, 5 main areas I'm going to be looking at within the hours we have or minutes we have. I'm going to be looking at the main reason, the fundamental reason why most of us are not that good at strategic thinking. That's the first thing. The very first thing that I'll touch base today. After that, I will give you some ideas into assessing where you are right now, your abilities, keeping in mind strategic thinking. I will not let go of that topic because this is one of my favorite areas as well. So from the perspective of strategic thinking, we will be assessing where we are right now. Also, since this is a strategic thinking seminar, I would also touch base on the vision. Where do you want to go with your life, or with your company, or with the team that you have? Where do you want to go? And then that bridge between where you are now and where do you want to be, we will talk about those strategies as well. Finally, the very last area that I will look in today is about how we can continue day in and day out, how we can continue to be strategic in our activities. So this is the whole roadmap for what we are going to be looking in today. Shall we start? Are you ready? Time is around what? 1:30 and you're ready to learn. My goodness. Such dedication, I like it. Okay, so let's go into the first area. A question. Are you different? Look at each other. Look at the person on your right. Take a peek at the person on your left. Are you different? Is this a good question to ask ourselves? Is it a good question? Are you different? Chances are we may look different. We do look different. I'm pretty sure about that. But behavioral wise, we do share too many similarities. Too many similarities. In fact, to the extent where we are a flock of sheep. I'm pretty sure you're not going to believe me when I say this. But there's enough proof out there. So let me elaborate what I'm about to tell you. When we go to schools, we are dressed in uniforms, right? The reason why you are dressed in uniforms when you go to a school environment, and this is not just in Mali, this is everywhere in the world, when you go to that school environment, the reason why you are dressed in a uniform is simply because the management or the school organizers, their life is made easier when you are wearing a uniform. But if you are the sort of person who love being different, what is the message we are giving to our kids out there? When they look to the left, they see the same person because they are wearing a uniform. When you look to the right, same person. Again, the uniform. Our society, when you really look at it, it doesn't promote uniqueness in us. Everything we do, parents are also in this boat as well. The parents are going to say, why can't you be like your brother? Is that familiar? Why can't you be like that next door Ali? Familiar? So what we do in our actions is simply promote not uniqueness, but being just exactly like the flock of sheep. Be the same. This is the same reality. Now, I've been on both sides of the teaching environment. What I mean by this is, I've been a teacher Since I finished my high school, really, I've started escaping from the, what do you call it, NSS at the time. You had to go into the NSS military, so I wanted to get away from it, and that brought me into the teaching environment very quickly in my life. In this teaching environment, I was teaching economics to grade 10s. When I was teaching economics to grade 10, I had to tell them that monopolies are evil. Monopolies are evil, and here me at the age of around 18 telling the kids out there who was around 14, I think, that monopolies are bad. And why was I telling this? Because my teachers taught me this exact same thing. When you talk about Dirago at that time, because we were kids growing up and that was when Dirago hit us, we were made to believe that they are evil. Mainly because they were a monopoly. Mainly because monopolies don't do things for the greater good of what? The public. They have a power in them to squeeze us. They have the power to dominate the entire market. Now, when you are made to believe in this, think about what we are really saying. The very art of being different is doing something different out there. Monopolies are the people who does it differently to the market. That's why they are a monopoly in the first place. Unless you do something differently, you cannot ever become a monopoly in the market. That difference is what makes you a monopoly. So, we are never made to believe that being different is a good thing. The way we were brought up, this is exactly the message given to us. So I'm a big believer that being different will reap you rewards. But only if you do things differently. If the school system didn't allow it, you got to consciously do the changes to yourself. And here's a danger. As a kid, the very, very first thing you learn is to mimic. The art of mimicking. And what's at the heart of mimicking? It's not being different. It's copying other people. So I think this is an important area to look into. Because if you are doing things the way other companies or other organizations are doing, you will end up just like them. Your organization needs to do something differently. If it's HR, you've got to do something different and make it a meal out of it. Get obsessed about this difference, because unless you do that, you will never end up doing something differently. So this is my first message for you. The reason why we continue to be bad at strategic thinking is merely because we choose to be the average. Think about this. Think about this in an individual level. Think about this at a professional level as well. Maybe there are gaps out there that you can do things differently. And this is the start. This is the very start of strategic thinking. Because unless you are different, you cannot create excellence out there. Because you will end up average. So that's the first message. The fundamental reason that limits our strategic thinking. Now let's go into assessing the now. How many baby boomers are here? Can I get a raise of hand? People who were born in 1940, between 1946 and 64. Raise of hand. Just keep your head up, please. 1964 and between 46 and 64. Thank you very much. How about 1965 and 1980? Raise your hand. 65 and 80. Thank you. What about the next one? 1980 and 1996. Wow. Lots of us, right? And finally, 97. Anyone? One person. Okay, what I'm about to talk about now is something known as the millennial problem or the generation problem. Because let's look at it. Mainly to do with these people. So others are safe, by the way. Others are safe. Okay. Mainly to do with these guys, especially the ones who fall towards 1996. I'm going to highlight two areas. Two areas. Okay. So let's talk about it. Alcohol, gambling, and nicotine. Alcohol, gambling, and nicotine shares one major commonality, which is again something known, a hormonal change known as you getting the rush of dopamine. Dopamine is what makes people get addicted to those things. Dopamine is what makes you cross that line from obsessive behavior to the bad behavior. The dopamine rush is so strong that even the mere thought of something, alcohol for example, or nicotine for example, would give you that urge to go and grab it. Dopamine is a very, very powerful thing. Would you agree with a father who comes home after a very busy day at work and he throws away vodka bottles to the kids and say, hey, that's a bad thing, right? Very, very bad thing. Do you know what technology is doing today to kids? Think about it. Technology, those notifications, the blinks, the likes, the followers, all these things are creating a dopamine rush in these millennials. And that is the reason why they are so addicted to their telephones or technology, for instance. The dopamine is creating chaos now. So the fourth in line, drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, gambling, fifth. And the fifth one becomes now technology. That dopamine rush. But dopamine is not the only thing that's harming our kids today. There's another one. This second one is by far the biggest problem. The impatience that we are teaching our kids today. Think about this impatience. For instance, for a person who is born in 1995. Impatience is going to the extent where if you want to order something right now, ordering something right now can guarantee next day delivery for you. Amazon, for instance, is doing wonders out there with this thinking. If you want to watch a movie right now, what do? No waiting, streaming immediately. The waiting is eliminated from our spectrum. You don't have to wait anymore. You want to watch a series, what do now? Wait for the weekend and binge watch them at that very moment. You don't wait week in, week out for the next series. You binge watch it. If you want to go out on a date, you no longer go and flirt with someone. Hi, how are you? You don't do that now. What do? Swipe right, swipe right, swipe right. This one, click enter. And you got yourself a date. Waiting is eliminated from our lives. And this is a significant thing because what I'm about to go into next area is the science behind this and its relationship with strategic thinking. Waiting is eliminated from our life, from the millennials' life. And when we do that, it's harming us from a scientific perspective. So let's look at it. First, let's look at a video. Ready? There you go. So that is a 1960 experiment, a longitudinal study, which was done on 4 to 6-year-olds. And 20 years later, the researchers went in order to check how the life has been with the kids. The kids who waited compared to the kids who couldn't wait. The kids who waited were more successful in their lives compared to the kids who couldn't wait. And what is being eliminated from our society now? Waiting. And it is a dangerous thing, because if you don't wait, if you don't learn the benefits of patience, there is proof out there that things may turn out disastrous for them. Walter Mitchell's, he's even got a book out there regarding this particular experiment, and he has done this experiment on many variations as well. One of the biggest findings from this research was that the strategies adopted by these kids to wait and not to wait, he termed it as using hot systems as well as cooling systems. The hot system was such that the kids were looking at the marshmallows from the perspective of how soft it is, how yummy it might be, how sugary it could be. So all these temptations. So that is the hot features. But the kids who actually waited, the kids who waited did not become emotional about the marshmallow. They were more cognitive in their thinking. They were not looking at it as something they could eat. They were more thinking it along the lines of abstracts. Some kids later on in that study said they thought it was a picture. The marshmallow in front of them was a picture. A picture is not something you can eat, can you? And hence the success with it, the 2 marshmallows 15 minutes later. So Walter Mitchell identified these 2 thinkings that we use in order to wait. So instant gratification versus delayed gratification. Let's go to the science of it. In everyone's brain, there is an area here which is known as the prefrontal cortex, PFC. This is the area that is responsible for that waiting. Kids, when they grow up, when they are young, in month 1, month 2, month 3, they don't even have a prefrontal cortex. Which means for them, if they are hungry, what do? Cry out loud. If they are hurt, cry out loud. So the prefrontal cortex is something that comes as we grow older and older. And much of the science says when you become 25 or so, that is very much a mature prefrontal cortex right there in you. But the millennials of today are taking it longer to really mature because they are not experiencing the art of patience anymore. There's too many immediate gratifications out there that they can indulge in. No more delaying the thing. So that's the prefrontal cortex. Strategic thinking happens here. Analysis happens with a strong prefrontal cortex. Analyzing, synthesizing, all these things happen if you have a strong prefrontal cortex. The other extreme, the ones whose hot features were immediately intact, were the ones who actually had this intact. Now this is the other area of our brain that is responsible for our immediate reactions. If you see something grabbing, if someone is hitting you, you get this shock. And that's this, the way they pronounce it is called amygdala. Amygdala, but I like to call it amygdala, it's easier. Amygdala anyway is the real pronunciation behind it. So this is the most primitive part of your brain. Amygdala is the most primitive part of the brain. Pain, that's what it does. You don't think about situations when amygdala is in action. For example, a lion chasing you. What do? You don't analyze, huh? Oh my God, if it comes around, you can't do that. Prefrontal cortex is out, eliminated, because amygdala is going to be the one who will be responsible for your next move. You're going to run away or fight with it. So amygdala is the one that is being impacted when we are immediately grabbing things in front of us. And this is a reactive mode that humans use. And this is by far the move that we do without thinking. You don't think when amygdala is in play. But there's good things about it as well, right? When you're going on a motorcycle, if someone comes in front of you, that reaction should stop. And that's good. But the bad news for us, all of us, is if the amygdala is active all the time in our lives, there is a danger that the prefrontal cortex will not develop. You're not giving enough opportunity for it to develop. So, doesn't matter who you are in this spectrum, today's lifestyle, it is changing the way we look at things. And it is changing the way our brain really works. And this is why we need to pay some attention to this area. Let me elaborate a little bit more very quickly. Couple of things that we do very badly and signs that amygdala is in play in our adults. Let's look at it. Zebra crossing. We have all experienced this. I know all of us are very busy. But out there are people who are not busy. And when you can't stop while someone is crossing, that is your amygdala in play. You don't care whether it's an old person out there needing to cross the zebra crossing. We don't care. It's all about us. And here's another interesting thing. 8 in the morning. Have you experienced traffic in Malaya? I bet you would have. Again, I'm not talking about all of you, but except you all, the rest. The rest out there drive so fast 8 in the morning. As if the whole Malaya is getting late to work. Think about it. I mean, amygdala is not there. If your prefrontal cortex was in play, what do? You may be out from your house 20, 30 minutes before the time to go to work. Because none of it is working anymore for us. It's all fast-paced for us. We are too busy. So this is one area where amygdala is in action. Here's another. I go to drop my kid to school. He's 6, and I mean, I can't believe people park right in front of the classroom these days. No regard for the next person. No regard to the person next to you. And again, if you don't consider that other person, that is your prefrontal cortex being damaged. That's what I would say. Because you don't analyze the place you are in. You're not looking at the environment. You are too busy. The rest doesn't care. So when your amygdala is in operation, these are the things you do. Another thing, breakfast. Why can't we have breakfast at home? I do a lot of consulting work in the private sector, and guess what? Most complaint that they bring to us is regarding the employees taking breakfast in their office, in their work. Come to work, they go out and have breakfast. I know in the public sector it will definitely not happen, but it does! Oh my God, you guys. Anyway, yeah, this is a huge issue. Again, we are not using our prefrontal cortex to think. Family time is important. If you sit with your family, plan your day, it's far better for you in terms of managing what's to come next. But it doesn't happen. Phones, same thing. I don't even have my phone at the moment. But people are paying too much attention to this now. You go on a date, the phone is the most important person in front of you. The phone, I mean, why? We are not that busy. You don't have to have the phone in front of you in a meeting. You can let it get away from you. You need to let it go. People are now doing New Year resolutions on not being on Instagram. Year resolution, not being in Instagram. My goodness, the world is changing, right? Again, it's signs that our prefrontal cortex is weak and the amygdala is in operation for most of us. And amygdala is the most primitive thing in your brain. A lion chase, that's the main reason why it's there, for you to react to things. And Instagram is now that. And finally, savings. I don't know, I'm not going to talk about this, but I believe that most people are not as good as saving for your future. We are not good. And one of the signs that I could pretty much put as evidence for this claim is simply the number of credit that is revolving in our society these days. Shisha, for example, they can sell so many of their motorcycles. All you have to do is pay 2,000 rupiah. How easy is that? iPhones to 20, 30,000 rupiah an iPhone. And today, thanks to Dirado, thanks to other big giants out there, you can get that phone for 2,000 rupiah. Credit. If you have too much credit revolving in your society, trust me, you're not saving. Because these guys have the power to sell things using your amygdala to your disadvantage. Because all we have to do is look at it as the marshmallow in front of you. You will eat it, you will grab it. And that's what marketers are doing today. So my message here regarding where you are now is simply let's work on rewiring our brain again. Let's fire those neurons back to where it should be. Prefrontal cortex is where to start. Delaying gratification is important. You don't have to get everything right now. It is not the way it should be. I mean, that is how it is, but you have to consciously change things now. Consciously, you have to give opportunities for the prefrontal cortex to grow. So that's the message from me for the second area that I've just looked into. Let's go into the third area. The third is rather the most beautiful area you could talk, because the future is not clear. The future requires your strategic thinking, and the future is what will make you great. Today even, it is the future. So let's look at this rather closely. A good way to start? 90-year you. 90 years of age. How would your life be like? 90 years of age. My God. 90 years. My father is actually turning 90 this year. So I've got some experience of being 90. He's very demanding, by the way. He wants things to be the way he wants, but he doesn't realize that he depends on us now. He wants to be very independent. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is legacies. The point is financials. The point is family. The point is love. The point is relationships. 90 years of age, these are the things that will make you be satisfied with your life. But if you are not doing things today to go towards that direction, chances are you may regret when you turn 90. Because you don't want to die thinking, I could have done this. You don't want to die thinking, if I had that second chance. You don't want to die regretting a life. This is the moment we have. And this is the moment when we can change things around, because we have the power. So let's look at it from a strategic point of view. When you are dealing with strategy, we always use the term articulating a vision. In the private sector that I work, we do this quite a lot. Every year, they would invest so much of their time, probably in a retreat somewhere, keeping their phones aside, thinking about where they want to go for the next 2 or 3 years. So strategy or articulating a vision articulating a vision is a very interesting area, forward thinking. So let's look at how we do it. Firstly, we always give the message that a vision has got two components. A vision has got two components, one of which never changes. One of which will never change, but the next part of the vision is something that will stimulate change or push you towards that change. So things that don't change and things that change are incorporated in a vision. But we have this tendency of not really considering the fact that vision contains things that don't change. We think vision, future means things should change. But let's look at these areas that doesn't change, and this can be applied to us individuals as well. The core purpose and the core values, these are two things that will never change. No matter who you become as an individual, you cannot change who you are. What defines you? The principles that you live by, these are things that cannot change in you. Just because you got a new car, or just because you got a new post, doesn't mean those things about you should change. So let's look at it from an organizational point of view. I'll give you an example from this, so I think it may be easier to think through. Core purpose is the most beautiful thing about an organization. The most beautiful thing, because it asks the question why you exist as an organization. For example, immigration out there. It's an organization. Why do you exist? Why? It is not the what you do. We know what you do, issuing passports and all that to the public. But why do you exist? The why is the fundamental question here. If you ask this why a number of times, chances are you will end up with the core, the very essence of an organization. I'll give you an example, because a session like this, I cannot really help you with figuring things out. A session like this can only make me do something to open up your minds about an area. So let's look at an example. So core purpose is like a shooting star out there. It's out there. Forever you can go try and grab it, but you will never grab it. But every year you will feel like I'm getting closer and closer and closer, but you will never grab it. It's an inspiring thing as well. My example is Walt Disney, because I thought everyone here could relate to this particular company. You all know Walt Disney, right? Have you watched a movie of Walt Disney? Have Walt Disney impacted on your life somewhere along your life cycle? Probably yes. And if I ask you, why do this company exist? I guarantee you know the answer. I guarantee you, most of you know the answer of why Walt Disney exists. Shall we try figuring it out? It's an easy one. Why do you think Walt Disney exists? You can shout out, yeah? To entertain people. Can you go to the core? Why do you entertain people? Why? For what? Happiness. Is that right? Is that right? You are absolutely right. Give yourself a hand. Right. So that is very, very true. Walt Disney exists to make people happy. That is the core purpose, the very essence of this company. They have done so many things in their life, but they have never thrown away the core reason why they exist, which is to make people happy. We need to figure this out. Will this inspire people working there? Probably yes. It will inspire. Will this be something difficult for people to remember? No. It's a very easy thing to remember. It's plain, it's simple, it's inspiring. And it's like a shooting star. Can you stop making people happy? Can you reach a point where, yes, we've reached the point where everybody's happy? You can't. Because when you reach this point, there's still more to be done. So this kind of fits the whole purpose of all the characteristics of a core purpose. Let's look at core values. Another area that doesn't change. Most companies out there say these are the guiding tenets, the guiding principles, where you work in an organization. If you look at these guiding, the good and the bad, the worthwhile and the not so worthwhile, these are the things that makes you you. Every organization is different. Immigration would be different to customs. Customs would be different to another organization there. So when all of you are so different, you need to figure out what makes you so unique. What is the core values that makes you you? These are not nice to have. I know a lot of companies out there do it because it's nice to have, nice to showcase. But the truth is, this needs to be about the staff. It needs to be about the staff. Again, I'll go back to Walt Disney just to give you an idea of what it's like. Most companies out there use 4 or 3 core values. These are the most important values that they hold dear. The most important. And most companies even have it in an order. For example, this is what Walt Disney has as their 4 core values. So, courtesy, show, safety, and efficiency. Which one do you think is the most important priority in Walt Disney? Just give it a guess. Which one? Courtesy probably. Show probably. Okay. This is exactly what it is. Safety. Imagine that. When a kid is up there on a roller coaster and if the guard down here believes that the roller coaster might collapse, he will stop everything immediately. And even if it doesn't collapse and even if there's no issue, he will not be punished for that. Why? Because he felt something. And that core value, people are not afraid to use. So it is such an important thing that guides company employees. So we need to figure this out. And the best thing is, as individuals, you ought to have it too. As individuals, you need to have core values, things that you firmly believe in, things that you will always proudly teach your children. Son or daughter, use this because this is my biggest core value. So you need to have these things. And our society is going to the stage where we are no longer talking about values. We need to bring it back. We need to use the thank yous and the please and all these things because these are the values that makes us unique. These are the values that are diminishing in our society, and it's another topic, so I won't indulge in it. Anyway, BHAG. That's the next one. The things that change, the things that stimulate change, the things that push change. BHAG is big, hairy, audacious goal. Or in other words, audacious goal. In the corporate world, they love calling it BHAG because the big, the hairy, that's something big. Fortune 500 companies, they all have a BHAG. So let's look at what a BHAG really is, shall we? Just a mere look at it. Okay. So again, BHAG, it has to engage people. It has to be inspiring. It is a goal, by the way. This is the goal that takes you to that vision. This is the vision. This is the destination. So this goal has to be very clear. You cannot be explaining to your employees what a goal is. This is my company's goal. You shouldn't. Because they should get it. By reading it, they should get it. Once you read it once, it has to stick in your mind. Because that is the essence of having an organization geared towards the change. So yeah, and also a BHAG is something that shouldn't be 100% achievable. You can't have a BHAG and say, I can achieve this. No, you got to have that 10% luck involved in it. 90% chance that you can achieve it, but stretching the organization further can only mean 100% achievement. That should also be in a BHAG. So I thought the best example to just open your minds up regarding this area is Ford, 1930s. Ford, they came up with not a car, they came up with an assembly line, invented an assembly line. And in this assembly line, a minute a car, a minute a car, a minute a car was coming out. What do they do with all the cars? Well, Ford, the BHAG that drove this company and even America into prosperity was simply because of this BHAG. Democratize the automobile. See how beautiful that is? Democratize the automobile. It was a time, 1930s, when horses were ruling the roads. A time when horse was everything. Not buses, not trains, but horse. And at a time like that, when roads were not built, here comes a company with an assembly line and with a goal, a courageous, audacious goal, saying, we will democratize the automobile, which means give back the power to the individuals. The individuals should have the power to buy it, and they can. So this is the most interesting thing about a goal. It has to be inspiring. We can't just write something down and say this is a goal. If you want to get things out from your employees, you've got to create inspiring goals now. Because trust me, most of them are going to be millennials soon. When you are dealing with millennials, things are not going to be the same. Although these people lack the patience in them, they also do have the courage to learn new things. That's the good news. They only need to be guided better. So, yeah, this is the beauty of having a goal. Talking about goals still, once you figure out the BHAG, the next part of it is about describing it. This is the only slide that has got this amount of writings in it. So while I have this water, mind you, please read it. Thank you. So yeah, basically the description, when you achieve this BHAG of democratizing the automobile, the life of Ford and the life of America is going to change. And it's described as this. We will build a motor car for the great multitude. It will be so low in price that no man making a good salary will be unable to own one. 1930s, this happened as well. And enjoy with it the family, the blessing of hours of pleasure in God's great open spaces. When we are through, everybody will be able to afford one, and everyone will have one. The horse will have disappeared from our highways, the automobile will be taken for granted, and we will give a large number of men employment at good wages. And exactly this happened. And also, because of this, then came the collapse of America as well. Again, pointing finger at the Ford company. Anyway, Cheshire Cat, Alice in Wonderland, this is another thing that kind of sums up the whole talk that I'm giving you right now. Cheshire Cat, Alice, there's a conversation in this Alice in Wonderland movie which says this. So the Alice comes and says to Cheshire Cat, which road do I take? And the cat's response, where do you want to go? And Alice says, doesn't matter where I go. And that's the answer. So I don't know is what Alice said. And the Cheshire Cat said, if you don't know where you are going, it doesn't matter which road you take. This is the significance of having a vision. if you do not have a vision, you may end up in a place when you are 90 years old, a place that you don't want to be in. So it's high time really thinking about a vision for you as well as for the companies that you are in charge of. And if you already have one, try to think of it from the perspective of employees. Is it inspiring them? Is it sticky in their brains? Use it to your advantage. Okay, strategies is the fourth one that we are going to look at. I'm only going to take another 10 minutes out of you, so that's where we are headed. In 10 minutes we'll be done. So let's look at the strategies. I'm not going to go to this because I bet all of you knows what a SMART goal is. Being specific, being measurable, being achievable, realistic, and timely. So this is what we all know at the moment. Let me add a little bit of more flavor to this, because I hope a little tip somewhere might help you rework on some of the ideas that you are working when it comes to goals. Laws of attraction. Again, another area that kind of deals with your brain. The more somebody sees something out there, the more the brain will be fired towards that thing. That is what laws of attraction does. If you want something in your life, start talking about it. Start putting pictures everywhere so that you will be reminded of it. And the more you talk, the more the chances that one day you will go and achieve it. That's the laws of attraction. At the moment, I'm training for a marathon. On April the 18th, I'll be running this particular marathon. And if you come to my house, it's all about that particular marathon. Because I want to be reminded all the time about that particular place I'm going to end up in on April the 18th. The more you talk about it, the chances are the more it will happen the way you want it to happen. So, doesn't matter what opportunity you get with the staff, doesn't matter if it's about an HR meeting, talk about the goals that matter, remind them, because the reminding doesn't kill the spirits in people. Reminding only takes you towards this law of attraction. So this is a good thing to do, and I will urge you to continue doing that as well. The other area that I would like to highlight, another tip for you regarding goals, is the idea behind using psychology into goals. Using psychology is a proven method again, because remember Amy Cuddy? You can make yourself believe in many things. So let's look at one area, which is a car wash. This is an example. A research was done in order to find out how people really behave. Now, in this research, car owners were given a card. So two kinds of cards were there. So one card had like this. So this is a car wash, 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 and then you get a free car wash. Okay? The other had this, a blank one with 8, and then a free car wash. What the researchers wanted to find out was which one will do more. Which card holders would go and get the free washes more often. And it turned out that if you had a head start given, now this is the psychological head start. These are exactly the same, right? It's 8, 8, 8 without it. So the 9th is a free car wash. So when you are given a psychological boost, your mind is believing that, so if this is the start of your goal, your mind is believing you are already here, you've already begun. So that means it's not a fresh start, somebody has already started this goal for you. So when this belief is in your mind, it turns out that you are taking 34% more free washes than when you were given a plain card without any of those. So yeah, psychologically we can play with the minds of people. And if your goals are there, keeping in mind the psychological boost that you can give an individual, the chances of achieving it will be more higher as well. So I think that is an area that you could also use strategic thinking in. So strategic thinking all the way really. Finally, my last area that I would like to highlight is continuing to be strategic. So I'll cover this very quickly. Continuing to be strategic, it doesn't end anywhere. There's no end to being strategic. You've got to always give the opportunity to the prefrontal cortex. So these areas that I'm going to look at now will help you do this more often. So let's look at a couple of those things. So number one, free yourself from execution. I know most of us are leaders here, but sadly, although you are leaders, this tends to happen. Do you agree? When you micromanage, you are not allowing yourself that chance to free up from execution. Only if you allow yourself to free up from execution can you then think strategically. If you're always firefighting out there, you will never get that opportunity. So start today. Start freeing yourself up from execution. Trust those employees. Teach them what needs to be done. Put those things in place. Therefore, you can free yourself better from execution. So I think this is a fundamental flaw in most of the private sector leaders. I'm sure you guys are better off. So private sector, this is a huge area that, or in other words, a weakness. Leaders are trying to micromanage. So this is a good place to start. The second area is prioritizing. Again, we are living in a society where everything is happening pretty fast. When everything happens pretty fast, you got to know the difference between important things and urgent things. If you don't know the difference between important things and urgent things, you will end up doing the wrong things without again freeing yourself for planning, freeing yourself for any other thing. So there's a matrix that a lot of people follow. I'm not going to tell the details of this because so basically this matrix kind of highlights 4 cells. Trying to be in this 4th cell is what we should be doing as leaders. But most of us are here. And that is not the right thing to do. If you want to be strategic, don't be in that cell 1. If you want to be strategic, be in cell 4. Be in cell 4. You don't have to be, if you really look at your schedules, there may be many occasions where you can free up from a meeting. You don't have to be in that meeting. Maybe your peers, maybe your subordinates may do a better job at being in those kind of meetings. Anyway, the message is try to distinguish between what's urgent and what's important. If you know the distinction well, then you can free up more time and do what needs to be done from a planning perspective. So that's my second thing. If you want to be strategic, if you want to continue being strategic, try ruthlessly prioritizing. Be curious. Be curious. Bring the kid out of you. Just because you're an adult, just because I'm seeing baby boomers here, doesn't mean you should stop being curious. You've got to be curious. Because being curious means you're asking questions. The more questions you ask, the chances of getting to that strategic thinking is higher. Prefrontal cortex will be active the more questions you ask. That is why 4-year-olds, that is why 5-year-olds start asking more questions. Because their mind, the prefrontal cortex, starts developing. So we need to be curious. And there's a research which says, on average, kids preschoolers, they ask 400 questions a day on average, as opposed to adults who ask, how much do you think? Get rid of the last zero. 40. We adults ask 40 questions on average a day, while the preschoolers continue to ask 400 or so questions a day. That is significant. So let's be the kid. It's okay to sometimes act as if you are dumb. Just to the extent where you don't cross that be too dumb, So make sure that you have a strategic line drawn there too. So yeah, the third point is be curious. This is another issue. Again, not at you guys, but the private sector leaders out there. They are too much problem oriented. Too much problem oriented. Let me prove it to you. Okay. This is a report card. This report card is brought to you by, let's say, a child or your son or someone that you care, a kid. When you get this report card, let's not talk about you, let's talk about the other person, the neighbor. When you get this report card, what do you think the neighbor would do first? What would their immediate reaction be? It's not you, remember, it's the neighbor. Tell me what the neighbor would do. Exactly. The neighbor will start looking at the F, right? The neighbor would say, Darifullah, why did you get F? What's wrong with you? F. This is such a shame. F. I've taken you to school every day. Then other parents' kid, they would get an A. But you, F. Anyway, this is the reaction. The F will be the highlight. There's another way to look at it. Another way is solution oriented. That's the problem oriented. If you were solution oriented, you would be looking at these two A's. Son, why did you get an A in Divehi and why did you get an A in history? What did you do different? Have you given more time to it? Is that because you were studying history at 4 in the morning like Papa? Something would tell you that that solution, which is the A, there may be something you have done different, which can be applied to the F next term. That's the solution-oriented thinking. We are too driven by this umigdulu. The minute we see the F, we are like, the lion is chasing us, fight or flight mode on. Umigdulu, that's what it does. Again, prefrontal cortex, plan, analyze, synthesize. That is what will make you strategic. At work, I'm sure there will be many occasions where you have faced this sort of a similar thing. Go on, tonight when you're sleeping, think about the actions that you have done, which falls you into this trap. So yeah, most people are so problem-minded. We need to change. We need to become solution-minded. That's the other area where you could be strategic. Finally, the very last thing, one of my favorite areas is taking risks. Not just taking risks. It's like going out from your comfort zones. Going out from your comfort zone. So we need to challenge the norm. If you really challenge the norm, you will be living a differentiated life. Remember the very beginning, are you different? We look different, but our behavior is not. So yes, you need to be different. At least you need to tell your body that you're different. Somehow you need to convince your body that you are doing things differently. You need to question the routine. You are all governed by a routine, and that's not good. You need to change the routine. Why do you have to go to work from the same road every day? Why do you have to go to work using a car or using a motorcycle every day? Walk to work. Do something different. Make yourself free up from the routines, because the routines will make you stop taking the risks. Because the comfort zone, we are driven towards the comfort zone. And that is bad, and we need to overcome that. So yeah, in a nutshell, this is the 5 areas that I have gone through with you in the time that I was given, 1.5 hours. So I hope that you will take away something from this session. I hope there's something in here that I have said, or something in here that I have discussed with you, that will open your mind towards an area. You could still go and do the research. I'm sure there'll be many things you can do to be more strategic about your own lives. Because at the end of the day, that is what will drive you towards a new vision. And it's pretty important. And finally, you have to also be obsessed about being strategic. You have to be obsessed, because most of our prefrontal cortex is weak or damaged because we haven't given it sufficient practice. You haven't given that opportunity for the prefrontal cortex. It has always been the amygdala for you, for us, for me as well. But unless you consciously say, I'm not going to park in front of the classroom today and tomorrow, things will not change. Unless you consciously say, my environment, there's an old person crossing the zebra crossing line, you will not stop. Don't be that busy. You don't need to be that busy. I'm sure we can have breakfast with our families and plan the day. I'm sure we can. And also, when it comes to saving, there's far more beautiful things you can accomplish in life by indulging in delayed gratification as well. But I'm not telling you to stop doing things today. I'm not saying that either. You've got to continue doing that. And yeah, thank you very much. She is in TED Talk as well. You could watch one of the most watched TED Talks out there. Amy Cuddy for you, and you can surely fake your bodies into being somebody else. Thank you very much. And